Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is SockBot, and today we are talking about the most important thing that you will have to do at the very beginning of any level you make in Dreams. And it's something you didn't have to do at all in Little Big Planet, and I'm being cryptic on purpose. So if you do enjoy this video, and you do enjoy videos on Dreams in general, or if you're just excited for it, please do like the video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. But as always, no pressure at all. So let's get started. So when I say the most important thing in your game, I definitely mean it. So today we are going to talk about the beginning of your level. Basically, whenever you start a level in Dreams, there is something you have to do that you did not have to do at all in Little Big Planet. So in Little Big Planet, when you started a level, you basically had a base to that level. You always had Sackboy to fall back on. So if you wanted to just start and jump right in and make some crazy awesome platformer only using Sackboy, which is obviously most of what I do, you could just do that and everything would go fine. You just have to put him in there and make sure you had the correct like background and make sure the sound sounded cool and change the environment, and then you can make a platformer, and it was pretty simple. But the issue here with Dreams is you don't have Sackboy. You're going to obviously have base characters, you're going to have the characters from the story mode, I assume, and obviously if not, as I talked about in a previous video, which I will link here, you will have other characters created by the community. The issue with those is any character you come with, you're still going to have to create a camera angle. And that is the most important thing, and it is the thing you need to do before you can playtest anything. And so obviously with Little Big Planet, you could create camera angles and you could change the game camera based on where Sackboy went, or where Sackgirl went, or where any of the different characters went. And obviously if you weren't using them, if you're just using the controlinator the whole time, you could change it based on that too, and you could take full control of the camera, but you never needed to. With Dreams, you do have to, and it's the first thing you have to do. So what I want to talk about specifically in this video, other than just kind of mentioning that it's something that we might not think of before starting any other part of our level, it is definitely something that's super important, and now I want to talk about specifically what you have to do to create that. And we can make some assumptions here, but most of it is just like, hey, this is something we have to do. We know how we're going to do it. We have the tools. We know what's going to happen. So with Dreams, when you start a level, you have to create a camera angle, and so you have to go from one of a couple options. Depending on the game type you make, you can choose a static camera angle, you can choose a semi-dynamic camera angle, which I'll explain because I don't think that's like an industry standard term, or you can use a completely dynamic camera angle. So for a static camera angle, that means that you have one or a couple cameras that just stick to one place. So think of a puzzle game. If you're creating a puzzle game, you want the camera to show the whole puzzle board the entire game. So that's pretty simple. You just frame it and you make sure that the area that's active is wherever the kind of thing is you use that imp to possess. And so once you have that static camera angle, or you have the multiple static camera angles, you can then activate them all with switches, or of course you can have them activate each other depending on what you're creating. But that's a static camera angle, and it's pretty basic. When it comes to a dynamic and a semi-dynamic camera angle, this is like your Super Mario Brothers, it's like your Super Mario Galaxy, and even side-scrollers like Little Big Planet had a dynamic camera angle. So when I mean semi-dynamic camera angle, I mean one that can basically move within one plane. So like a side-scroller has a semi-dynamic camera angle because it follows the character the whole time, but it obviously moves. It's not just sticking in one place. But there's a difference here when it comes to like the actual dynamic camera angles. The dynamic camera angle has like a couple different iterations. You can have something like Super Mario 64, which if you remember gave you the option to kind of like switch between 5 or 6 different options of a camera angle for the 3D world, but it was always pretty much at the same angle. You could obviously zoom into first person if you wanted to look at something and then zoom out, but all of those were kind of just on top of the main gameplay, which was centered around those like 5 or 6 camera angles that you could switch between using the C buttons. Now with more modern games, think like Call of Duty or other kind of platformers that are in 3D now but more advanced, you basically have almost full control over the camera angle. You can zoom in and out in some games if it's in third person, or you could move around in a circle around them for just about any game. And with first person, obviously it's a little bit different because instead of the camera floating around the person and kind of aiming at the person, you have the camera angle, which is basically where the head would be. Now I know that's like a lot of just very specific technical information, but what does this entail? Well, it is something that you have to think about when you make your level, and it's definitely something that's going to take time no matter what level you make. If you are having issues creating some sort of dynamic camera angle, stick to a static or a semi-dynamic camera angle. That way you don't have to worry about giving the player the option to change the camera angle, which in addition will give them the option to screw up the camera angle, and also kind of forces you to make sure you set up the correct restrictions so they don't accidentally put the camera angle inside the character or get the camera stuck on something if you create it physically. Now obviously with the more advanced ones, the more complicated it becomes, the more you're going to have to do. But obviously there's going to be things that can limit your camera, and Media Molecule knows this going into Dreams, so they're going to give you many options in terms of like defaults. That way you don't have to be too intimidated with the fact that before you can even start building anything in your level, you have to do this entire super technical thing first. Which obviously I don't mind, but maybe you guys are different, or maybe you're the same as me, and maybe this isn't intimidating to you at all. Who knows? I just figured for some people it could be a bit you know, worrisome when it's the very first thing that you have to do. And honestly, the most important thing, because it follows you out throughout the entire level and you can't even playtest without it. So yeah, that's basically all I wanted to talk about today, and kind of just bring up something that a lot of people might not think about when they're watching all of the sculpting tutorials and the really basic things that we've seen thus far with the Media Molecule streams. So yeah, again, I hope this video was useful to you and it was something that maybe you didn't think of, and if it was, you can leave a comment down below and tell me, hey SockBot, you're a Dumbo, and everybody thinks about this, and you make weird videos that center around super technical subjects that everybody already knows about but doesn't need to think about. Or obviously you could argue, for example, that maybe there is a default camera. I don't know, maybe there is. Maybe there's one that automatically follows your imp wherever it goes, huh? I didn't think about that, did you? But then what if your imp's not possessing the thing that you're moving around, huh? I'm thinking about that, huh? Alright, that's enough speculation and insulting myself based on what I think you guys are gonna say. It's just too much. It's too emotional. Alright, I'll talk to you guys soon. And enjoy berating me if you do. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye! Bye! Bye!